Now, of course, we mark Youth Day today. We'll continue to focus on the various successes, but also the challenges facing the youth. Tough economic times, high unemployment, very high, and of course, violence. It's easy to forget about mental health. It's probably the last thing that we should be forgetting. Well, UCT's Children's Institute says it's the foundation of a strong, vibrant and healthy society. Of course it is, but are we getting it right? UCT's Professor Sharon Kleintjes joining us this morning. Sharon, thanks for joining us this morning. You're okay with me calling you Sharon. Tell me about this child gauge that has been published. So what is it telling us? How bad is mental health for our youngsters in this country? Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about the 16th volume from the Children's Institute, which focuses on mental health. And I think just listening to you, Gareth, you were talking about quite a lot of negative stuff. I think that's the first issue, is that often when we think about mental health, we're actually thinking about mental illness or mental distress. Whereas in fact, mental health is about children's resilience. It's about them feeling good about themselves. It's about them being able to go out into the world and use their talents and be supported to use their talents in every setting. Mental well-being is about their sense of satisfaction with who they are, contentment with relationships. And then mental health problems, which is what we tend to think about when we speak about mental health, is really when children are experiencing distress to a great degree, that in a way that actually impacts on their ability to be out there and be mentally healthy and to feel a sense of mental well-being. And at the end of what we call this mental health continuum, a certain number of children, around 13% globally, children actually experience distress to a point that they are not coping anymore. They are not feeling good about themselves. They are not able to actively engage in mentally healthy pursuits. And then we would say these children would have a diagnosable mental disorder that actually needs intervention at various levels. So the challenges for children is not only about the negative things that's happening, but also for them and their supporters, their family, their school setting, how to make sure that they hold on to the positive side of human potential.
Is there much positive? Is there much positive? I don't mean to be the negative Nelly, obviously, but it's difficult. We come back off 2 years of COVID. Schooling was difficult. Parents lost their jobs. Communities are struggling, and that's what keeps a child lifted, isn't it? So how do we try and do this for our kids these days when the pressure on the adults and society is so difficult? Where do we begin?
So I think mental health problems have been there forever, but certainly the pandemic has highlighted for us what the basics need to be in place to actually retain that sense of mental health. As you say, Gareth, we lost our regularity. We lost our sense of what is normal, what can be expected. And for families, loved ones have been lost, jobs have been lost, businesses have closed down, the routine of schools have been changed. And that's actually had an enormous impact on families, on our society as a whole. And for children and adolescents who are embedded in that framework, it certainly had an impact on levels of anxiety, ability to concentrate at schools, ability to enter talking about young people being adolescents and young adults transitioning from school to work. It's all been that much more difficult in the last 2 years.
So if someone's watching now, Prof, forgive me for jumping in, I just want to get this last answer from you. If someone watching now and they're concerned about the mental health of a youngster that doesn't necessarily have a mental disorder, how can we quickly get on top of that? What do they need? A hug? Some love? Do they need a professional? What do we do?
Well, not a hug necessarily in the neighborhood, because we're still going through a pandemic. But yes, in the household and under safe circumstances, physical affection from safe physical affection from loved ones is important. But it's about the smile. It's about that positive attitude. It's about being responsive to children, listening to their voices, and noticing changes in their behavior, and having an ear for them as adults to guide them through these periods of stress and distress. But Gareth, not forgetting that, you know, one out of 10 to 13 children actually do have a significant mental health problem, exacerbated by COVID. But I think in South Africa, we have high levels of poverty, we have high levels of malnutrition, we've got high levels of violence, and all of these really are impact so negatively on our children's mental health. So the theme for the child gauge this year is that mental health is everyone's business. So yes, what do we do quickly? We can, for that individual child, give them that support when they're not mentally ill and just struggling a bit.
It's about support and about listening early on and not waiting for it to become a problem. Prof, I really thank you for your time in joining us this morning. Right. UCT Sharon Kleintjes, and talking about anxiety as well is going to lead very nicely to my conversation with the South African Depression and Anxiety Group at 7:30 this morning. But from UCT, I appreciate the time from Professor Sharon Kleintjes.